Traders, welcome back to the channel. Today, people request on the videos in the comments, do more trading videos, do more talking about how to actually trade rather than just talking videos. So today I'm going to go through my scaling strategy. Obviously, this is how I personally trade. I'm not saying go and do this and scale into your positions, because obviously you could risk more than you're willing to lose. It can kind of mess up with your plan. So definitely, if you're going to consider even trading like this, do your research, do your back testing, do your forward testing, put the time in to see if it actually works for your particular style, for your particular entries and your particular strategy. So we're going to go over to the charts in a second, and we're going to have a look at how I actually scale into my positions. I've actually used this to great effect on, FTMO challenges, and obviously the challenge and the verification, both stages. Obviously you have to make 10%, but because this scaling plan, you only actually have to make, around 5%, depending on where you scale in. I've used this in my 200k FTMO challenge, the one that I did. This is actually the way I scaled in. So if you guys want to see it on the channel a few months ago, maybe the 200k FTMO verification or the challenge, I'm not sure which one, but I use this scaling plan to great effect, and we passed within one trade. I'm pretty sure one trade and we passed. So moving on over to the charts now. Before we actually start, be sure to follow my Instagram. There is the name right here, the name. Go and check it out. Do not get caught out by the scammers. There are a lot of people that pretend to be me. I'll never follow you. I'll never message you first. So if I follow you or message you first, it's most likely not me. And it's only this name here. That's the only name, or the link in the description, depending which one you look at. That's my only account. So let's get on to the charts. So what we see here, I'm not going to be like, okay, so I enter when this happens here. I'm just going to show you how I would scale into a position. A lot of people say they don't like to scale into a losing position, but for this example, we're going to act like it is a losing position. So let's say my target was this previous low down here, which was obviously the New York low. And then, let's say we entered at this area here, just for the example. And for GU, I always use 10 pip stop loss, 10 pip or lower. Obviously there are some setups depending on your time frame where you might have to use higher, but myself personally, if I have to go higher than like 12-13 pips, then the setup for my plan isn't actually there, so I don't actually take the trade, just for risk to reward purposes. I have been testing it. Sometimes I've had setups which like 20-25 pips, but it is all dependent on the setup, of course. And if we see here, the trade actually went straight into drawdown. Obviously we had a little drop, then price went into drawdown. And if we look, it pretty much went 7.5 pips in drawdown. So this is a perfect example of where I would actually scale in. Obviously, you're not going to just want to scale in if a trade pretty much randomly goes into drawdown like this, to then scale into a losing position, because obviously you're then going to lose more. If the trade is still valid and it is then giving you a second entry, even though it's in drawdown, I will take the trade. However, this is where it's kind of different from the average sort of scaling. So this main position here, the main position, we are risking 1%. So if we move the keyboard a bit closer, main position equals 1% risk. Oh my god, it's so hard to type, so far away. Make that a bit bigger. Main position is 1% risk. So let's say we lose to 10 pips, we've then lost 1% of our account balance. So now what I'm actually going to do is, when price comes into this drawdown, obviously, if it gives us the entry criteria which we're actually looking for, we're then looking to have a stop loss. Let's just make it 2.5 pips, because then it's a lot easier to explain. And then the same target. And if you guys actually look now, it says it's a 1 to 25. It's not a 1 to 25, and I'm going to go into that. The way I actually do it is like this. I don't know if people will be able to understand it straight away, but the position is meant to be like this, like that. So the second position, lot size wise, we're risking 1% of 10 pips of movement. So if price goes up 10 pips, we've lost 1%. However, we've entered here with 1% risk, so the same lot size as the first position. However, if it hits the stop loss, we only lose 2.5 pips. So instead of just risking 1% of those 2.5 pips, which would obviously be 4 times the lot size, we're using the same lot size but only risking 2.5 pips, so we're risking 1.25% instead of risking a full 2%. Does it make sense? I think so. And the main reason I actually do this is the risk to reward is just beautiful. It says 1 to 25, it's not a 1 to 25. However, this is a 1 to 5.67, and this is going to be a 1 to 6. So on this trade, instead of making 1 to 5, we scaled in, we risked 0.25% extra per position, well no, per trade, and then instead we've made, you know, 11 point, pretty much 12% profit. So risking, so the 1% risk, the first position, if we won and just left it, no scale-ins, we would have made 5.67%. But we used the scale-in, risked an extra 0.25% and made an extra 6.3% profit. So then you're risking 0.25% to make 6%. And if you look at the risk to reward on that, that is absolutely beautiful. So that is kind of how I scale in, but obviously there's going to be situations where you wouldn't want to do it. So let's say you're entering a buy at this level and then price starts going down in drawdown. You wouldn't want to then just get in on an impulse candle. You want to have set confluences to actually get into that trade. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. They'll have their losing position. If I show an example here, they'll have their losing position going up, 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 up. They're trying to sell. Let's say they're selling here, price will go against them. They'll just enter, 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 until price then goes in their favor. But what we're doing, we're still having that set stop loss, but we're just minimizing our risk from a scale in and maximizing our profit. The only time I wouldn't actually use this is on prop firms, the actual funded stage. With the funded stages, I'm looking to risk, you know, 0.5 to 1% of my account, no matter what. Even if I get perfect scale in, I'm not going to risk it, because the main aim of actually having the funded accounts is to obviously preserve the capital and not lose the funded account. So if you can make it so you don't lose the account, perfect, then you can just obviously make profit. But if you're risking 1% each time on a funded account, you have 10 chances to blow the account. You can lose 10 trades in a row. If you're risking 0.5%, you have obviously 20 chances, and 0.25%, you obviously have 40 chances. I wouldn't say do this on a funded account. I wouldn't say do this on a challenge or verification if you're not experienced, and if you haven't actually back tested it thoroughly. You need to understand when your scalings actually work, when to actually go in with that 0.25% extra risk, and just make sure that in the long run, if you lose like 10 scalings in a row, that's 2.5% you've lost. But if you obviously win one, you should make more than 2.5% on it anyway, based on your risk to reward. So it's a bit hit or miss. I found it works perfectly on certain setups. This doesn't really happen every single day. I'd say like in a month, it probably happens maybe once or twice in a month where I'd actually get this scaling opportunity. But I did just want to share it with you guys. A lot of people are actually interested in my sort of trading, how I get my positions, because a lot of times I'll post on Instagram my trade. I have an entry here and an entry here, and people are like, why didn't you just put your lot size as one entry? And obviously they're the same lot size, but they're split. So they're like, oh, why didn't you just put 20 lots instead of having two 10 lot positions? And obviously this is why. That's why I made a full video on it, rather than just replying to every single person's DM. So if you guys did find this useful, be sure to like the video and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.